Greetings, fellow travelers, vagrants, explorers, wildlanders, and welcome to episode 79 of the Retro Wildlands. My name is Nomad, and this is my gaming podcast where I like to share my thoughts and experiences with a video game that I've discovered or rediscovered while roaming the gaming wildlands. Thank you very much for tuning into the show today. It's always great when you join up with us on another expedition into the gaming wildlands, my friend. I will say, though, you've joined up with us at a very strange time. We were making our way along the path here, and things suddenly got a little dark. People that we've passed along the way have told us that if we wander too far off the path, we might find a place that we weren't supposed to see. An abandoned village, seemingly lost to time and hidden away from the world. A place that apparently we may never escape from. Hold on, wait a minute. Hey, Dee Dee, Dexter, where'd you guys go? There you guys are. Did you two find something? Actually, given all the warnings we've heard, I don't want to know. Really, I think it's best that we pack up the expedition and move on. Dee Dee, I feel like I should remind you that we have talked about this. We do not wander into mysterious, possibly haunted locations without some sort of a plan. Right, of course. The plan is to explore. Okay. Dexter, you know you don't have to go along with this. This right here is how horror games start, and we can always turn back. And there they go. Two canine companions disappearing into a place that they don't quite understand. I'm sure this is going to end very well. And, you know, this all sounds very familiar somehow, like a certain video game that I've played recently. On today's episode, we're checking out a video game that is considered by many to be one of the best horror classics on the PlayStation 2, a system somewhat known for its hidden horror gems. This game features a story of two sisters, a forgotten village, and spirits that don't take kindly to visitors. Fatal Frame 2: Crimson Butterfly is often regarded as one of the most haunting survival horror experiences ever created, and not because it relies on cheap scares or over-the-top action. Instead, it builds its fear slowly, deliberately, wrapping you in a story that feels as tragic as it is terrifying. The game follows twin sisters Mio and Mayu Amakura, who, while chasing a fleeting childhood memory, find themselves drawn into Minakami Village, a place seemingly frozen in time, steeped in ritual, and haunted by the echoes of a past tragedy. Armed with nothing but the Camera Obscura, a camera capable of capturing and combating spirits, you're forced to confront ghosts not just as enemies, but as remnants of sorrow, sacrifice, and unresolved pain. And as the line between the past and the present begins to blur, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just a fight to survive. It's a story about connection, loss, and the terrifying cost of never letting go. Now, longtime listeners of the show know that I have a special relationship with horror games, and that relationship is one of love and admiration. There is something just so good about a good, immersive, spooky game that just gets my blood pumping. But amidst games from series like Resident Evil and Silent Hill growing up, the Fatal Frame series has always eluded me. I didn't really know about this series until I was much older when I discovered the first 3 games in the series were released on the original PlayStation 2. I really wanted to get into them and give them a try, but the high cost of a physical copy these days kept me away. That was until I got my hands on a physical copy of Fatal Frame 2 at a gaming convention a little ways back. I was intrigued by the type of horror this game brought to the table. Where Resident Evil had physical horror elements like zombies and monsters, and Silent Hill's horror was more psychological, the Japanese-style horror of Fatal Frame was more focused on spirits and the supernatural, with an emphasis on tension building. I've always been curious if that type of horror would be one that resonated with me in a video game like this. I say that because movies like The Ring or The Grudge were fun to watch, but never really scared me. Plus, I love the idea that you could only fight back against your enemies using a camera, which forced you to look directly at the horrors looking to consume you. On paper, it all sounded fantastic, but now that I finally played through this game, and a bit of the recent Fatal Frame 2 remake that's come up recently, did this game's horror give me the rush that I was looking for? Did I find this game to be as fantastic as many people have said it is? Well, that's what we're here to find out today, and I am excited to take you through the experience with me as we join Miyu and Mayu on their quest to escape the Lost Village. Now, if you're new to the show, I like to kick things off first by chatting it up with you all a bit in our opening segment, where I give you a peek behind the scenes here in the Retro Wildlands. Depending on what's on my mind, I might talk about what's going on with the show, what games I've been playing, projects I've got in the works, what's going on in my personal life, or whatever else happens to appear out of thin air, and then I capture with my Camera Obscura, and then put it into the microphone. I had to work for that one. I'll also take some time to read and respond to comments and thoughts that you have all shared over on our social media pages about Fatal Frame 2, so the community will get a chance to sound off their thoughts. Now, if that doesn't interest you though, and you're just here for the Fatal Frame 2 horror experience, no worries, you can skip ahead in the podcast. We'll say I'm going to shoot for about 20 minutes, and then you can jump right into the game talk. That is absolutely an estimate, because I'm actually recording these parts of the podcast out of order, and I haven't gathered comments yet, so we could have one community comment, we could have 90. Either way, if you're not interested in sticking around, be sure to check the show notes, where I've put timestamps to let you know where all the Fatal Frame 2 goodness actually starts. But like I do every show, I absolutely encourage you to stick around for our intro and hang out by the campfire for just a little bit longer before we set off. We'll talk a little video games and other stuff, and I can't think of a better way to prepare for the journey ahead. So, without further ado, let's kick things off with our opening segment that I like to call Campfire Catchup. Alright, first things first. I just want to say that I am actually doing pretty good. I'm in a really good headspace right now. I'm in a good mood, and it feels nice to be back behind the mic talking with you all again. And seriously, thank you all for your patience with me regarding this episode. This one took me a little longer than expected to get out. Working through Fatal Frame 2 was actually my first time fully playing through it, and I really wanted to give it the time that it deserved. Between finishing the game and putting my thoughts together for this episode, and working a bit more at my day job these past few weeks, and yeah, this one just took a bit longer to come together than I originally planned, but honestly, I think this will be worth the wait, so thank you again, all of you. We have finally made it. Over here on the home front, things are going pretty well too. Everybody's healthy, everybody's doing good, and that's always number one. I've also been spending a good amount of my time with my stepdaughter Cameron, as she is still on her quest to learn to drive. It has been one hell of an adventure, my friends. She still has a bit to learn, she's getting her reps in, and I've been in the passenger seat trying to be a calm, supportive co-pilot. I'll say this though, she's been doing rather well. I mean, I'm not clenching my butt nearly as much as I used to, so that's gotta count for something, right? I know some of you parents out there with older kids know exactly what it is that I'm talking about, and if you happen to have kids who aren't old enough to drive yet, oh buddy, just you wait. Seriously though, I am very proud of her. She's getting more confident by the day, more comfortable behind the wheel, and it's been really awesome being part of that whole process. Moving on from the family, what games have I been playing? As far as what I've been playing recently, I've actually had a couple of really good experiences. The first game is one that I just recently finished called Little Nightmares. I played this game with my wife Justine, and while she's not nearly as hardcore of a gamer as I am, I never would have guessed that a game like this would be one that she gravitated towards. Mainly because she is not into spooky or suspenseful stuff, like, at all. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Little Nightmares is this eerie, atmospheric puzzle platformer where you play as a small child navigating this really unsettling, almost dreamlike world filled with, well, let's just say there are some pretty disturbing characters around. It's not a really long game, but it's definitely a game that sticks with you. The visual design, the sound, the tension, it all works together so well to create something that feels quietly creepy the entire time. And playing it together made the experience even that much better. It's one of those games that's just really fun to experience with someone else, reacting to all the weird and uncomfortable moments along the way. We didn't find ourselves stuck anywhere for too long, so it was a pretty seamless experience. So yeah, definitely recommend Little Nightmares if you haven't checked it out yet. I do plan to do a written review of this game over on our website in the near future, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. Now, the other game that I played recently? This one kinda took over my life for a few days, and even though I've already completed it several times, I'm still thinking about it and itching to go back. That game was Resident Evil Requiem. God damn, I love this game. And when I say that I love it, I mean I put over 35 hours into it over the span of 4 days. And I got to walk away with another shiny platinum trophy from my pile as well, so yeah, I was all in. I had really high expectations for this game the moment it was launched, and not to spoil too much of my thoughts here and now, my expectations were largely met. The atmosphere, the gameplay, the way it pulls you in and just doesn't let you go, I could not put this game down. And because I couldn't put this game down, that's also part of the reason why this episode ended up being a little delayed. When a video game hooks you like that, it is hard to step away, and I absolutely let this game get its teeth in me. But it was worth it, and oh my god, did I have a good time. I love playing video games, but when that one special game comes along and it just finds a way to connect with you, damn, you just cannot beat that feeling. And I have some good news as well. Requiem is going to be our next audio expedition log episode. So if you're interested in Resident Evil Requiem or you've been playing it yourself, definitely keep an eye out for that episode coming up here soon. I have got a lot to say about it, and I am excited to give you an enhanced audio experience as we join Grace Ashcroft and Leon S. Kennedy on their adventure. So, speaking of, just a quick reminder, if you want to stay up to date with everything going on with the show and know exactly when new episodes drop, such as the impending show on Resident Evil Requiem, be sure to check out our website over at theretrowildlands.com. That's where you'll find episode updates, written reviews, and everything else tied to the show. And if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed to whatever you're listening to so you get notified as soon as new episodes drop. It really does help out the show, and I really appreciate every single one of you who's been following along on these expeditions. Lastly, if you haven't followed us on social media, that's something you can absolutely do as well. We've got a presence over on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, so follow us over there for the latest on the show. Alright, with all of that said, I think that is enough catch-up for one day, my friends. It is time to transition to the reason that you're all here today. It is time to talk about Fatal Frame 2: Crimson Butterfly. As is tradition here in the Wildlands, let's check in with the community and use some of your thoughts, comments, and memories to set the table. Our first comment came in from Thrak, who posted their comment over in the SuperPod Lounge Discord server, a server that I occasionally skulk around in, and one that I'll leave a link to in the show notes if you want to join up. Thrak said, Fatal Frame 2 was introduced to me by my high school girlfriend, as her and her family loved this game. I was too much of a scaredy cat to play the game myself, and after we broke up, I didn't think about it for years. Fast forward to the modern day, and I've been playing the remake, and I am happy I'm getting to experience one of the most beloved survival horror games of its era, and I do think it holds up despite some criticism. Thrak, I love that story. That's such a cool full circle moment, getting introduced to a game back then, it sticking with you for a little bit, then kind of falling away, and then you finally get to come back to it years later. And yeah, I'm right there with you. Not to spoil all of my thoughts now, but I felt like it really held up as well, even if there were a few rough edges. One rough edge in particular, and I don't think I really go in depth in this in the actual podcast itself, but I do want to call out that I had a hard time with the controls at first. And even after some playtime, movement was still weird for me. My character would wig out when the camera would change perspective sometimes. It was nuts. Also, I respect the honesty on being a scaredy cat back in the day. This game didn't really scare me all that much today, but I am calloused up after all the horror games that I've played to this point. I am sure that I would have hid in the closet at some point if I played this game when I was younger, no doubt about it. Our next comment came in from Chris, aka Sumo Kirby, who is also a member of the SuperPod Lounge Discord server. Chris kept it simple and just said, "Dang, I'm still too scared." Chris, that is totally fair. No shame in that at all. This is one of those games where even when you want to push forward, your brain's kind of like, nah, I'm good right here, thanks. I will say though, if you ever do decide to jump in, play it with the lights on, maybe have something going on in the background, just, ease your way into it. Or, better yet, you can just watch somebody else suffer through it, that works too. Or, better idea, you could also try the remake. I'm not too far into it yet myself, but I personally consider the original game scarier, so it might be something to think on. Our last community comment on Fatal Frame 2 came from Jack over on Facebook, who shot me a direct message. Jack had this to say. Of all the horror games out there, I never did find Fatal Frame 2 or any game in the series to be all that scary personally. That doesn't mean it didn't have its tense moments. My little brother and I would shut the lights off and turn the TV volume up as we played through the game after dinner was done. The tense moments and the jump scares are what got us, but when it was time to battle ghosts, it was fun, so much so that we forgot that we were in a horror game. I actually really like that perspective, Jack, because I kind of felt something similar at times. Which leans into the overall idea that horror can be really subjective. Fatal Frame 2 builds tension really well, but once you get into the combat and start understanding how the Camera Obscura works, it almost flips a switch. The game sometimes becomes less about fear and more about execution, let's say. And I love that you played it with your brother like that too. Lights off, volume up. That right there is the perfect way to experience a game like this. A huge thank you to Thrak, Jack, and Chris for sharing their thoughts and memories on Fatal Frame 2. If you listening want to get in on the action, all you have to do is follow us on one of our social media platforms. I'll put a call out for comments while I'm preparing the script for an upcoming episode, so that's your way to sound off if you want to be featured on an upcoming show. I also frequent the SuperPod Network's Discord server, as well as Channel3.gg, a really, really awesome gaming-centric social media platform, and when I remember to, I will put call-outs for comments over on those platforms as well. Originally released in Japan on November 27th, 2003, before making its way to North America on December 9th, 2003, on the PlayStation 2. Fatal Frame 2 would go on to become not just a standout entry in the Fatal Frame series, but one of the most respected survival horror games of its time. Developed and published by Tecmo, Fatal Frame 2 tells the story of twin sisters Mio and Mayu Amakura. What begins as a quiet, almost nostalgic moment, two siblings revisiting a place from their childhood, things quickly spiral into something far more unsettling. The two find themselves drawn into Minakami Village, often referred to as the Lost Village. It's a place where the past hasn't quite let go, and the spirits that linger there are anything but at rest. Armed with the Camera Obscura, Mio must navigate the village's narrow paths, abandoned homes, and suffocating darkness, capturing hostile spirits on film in order to survive. But this isn't just a fight against ghosts. It's a slow unraveling of a ritual gone wrong, a history steeped in sacrifice, and a bond between two sisters that's tested in ways that are as emotional as they are terrifying. But the real question is, all these years later, does this journey still hold up? Is it still worth stepping into the darkness, camera in hand, knowing something might be waiting just out of frame? Or is this one of those experiences best left buried with the village itself? Well, my friends, it is time for us to find out. So let's gear up, Wildlanders. Grab that container of herbal medicine, grab the Camera Obscura, and make sure you have plenty of film. There's a darkness settling around us, and through that darkness are the spirits of those long gone. If we aren't careful on our journey, there's a very good chance that we may join them in an eternal spiral of pain and everlasting torment.
We always used to promise each other that we would stay together.
Fatal Frame 2 is a game that I've been aware of for a long time, one that always seemed to come up in conversations about the scariest games ever made. But for whatever reason, I never fully sat down and experienced it from beginning to end. Until now, that is. I wanted to understand why this game, out of so many others on the PlayStation 2, has stuck with people the way it has. I mentioned it at some point before, but the type of horror this game has on offer never really interested me. Sure, I love the idea of spooky ghosts, wraiths, and other things you can't see, but I had assumed that's all this type of Japanese horror was. It wasn't until I actually sat with this game in a dark room did I truly understand the angle this game's horror truly took. Games like Resident Evil put players in situations where they were outnumbered by all sorts of monsters, creatures, zombies, you name it. And while they did an incredible job of scaring you straight with threats of disembowelment and dismemberment, players could usually fight those scares back, usually with an overpowered weapon or firearm. The terror could be fought, and most of the time, it could be killed. Now, looking at the Silent Hill series, these games introduce psychological horrors to the player. These horrors and scares were ones you couldn't physically destroy because they were terrors that crept into your own mind. The game made you see things that weren't quite there, made you imagine you heard something that might have been in the game or could have been in your own home. But when faced with these horrors, you generally had to run. There was no facing up to these fears as they would consume you whole, and not being able to really fight back was this style of fear's biggest hook. And then there was the Fatal Frame series. At the time, I didn't really understand the horror angle it was going for, but after playing through it, I feel like I have a much better understanding now. Really, Fatal Frame exists somewhere in between Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Fatal Frame leans into creating unbearable tension for the player and releasing that tension at just the right time. When the player is face to face with a threat or something that wants to harm them, we are able to defeat that threat. While we don't have a firearm or a melee weapon we can use to either shoot our foes or beat them until they're a mass of flesh and goop, we do have a camera. We'll talk about how we use the Camera Obscura in Fatal Frame 2 once we slide this game into our PlayStation 2 and play it a little bit together, but I will say that the camera mechanic in this game is probably, in my opinion, the most important piece of this game's horror puzzle. A firearm against a fleshy monster is one thing. Running away from something you can't defeat is another. But using a camera to fight ghostly apparitions, now that is a sweet spot. You see, it's not enough to snap a photo of the ghost that's coming for you, anyone can do that, but the game makes it to where the effectiveness of your shots is based on how close you let the ghost get to you, and even rewards you with more damage dealt if you can time your picture to the moment where the spirit attacking you is about to actually attack. Basically, you're being forced to make yourself vulnerable over and over again in order to survive. You're forced to literally face your fears in order to overcome them, and I think that's an awesome way of doing horror. And when the ghosts or spirits have been defeated and the room goes quiet again, you still don't feel safe. Fatal Frame 2 is great at the whole tension and release angle. Tension builds. You get a release, giggity, after you take out the things haunting you, and then the tension builds right back up. It's pretty awesome when done right, though I will say this style of horror has to be balanced perfectly. The danger with the camera combat in this game is that it's actually so good and thought out that it can be pretty fun when you get the hang of it, and the ghosts stop being scary the more you see them up close. This has the danger of actually breaking the perfect balance for some, and admittedly, it did break the balance a little bit for me. Still, the whole experience is great when that balance is achieved. Tecmo built a game that, more often than not, keeps that balance going. While I haven't played the first Fatal Frame yet, I'm told the sequel here is a huge improvement over the original, though what made the second game so great hasn't quite transitioned into other games in the series, I'm told. The real question, though, is if the new Fatal Frame 2 remake keeps this balance, improves upon it, or somehow makes it worse. I am about 6 hours into the remake at the time of writing the script, and I will say this. The balance is definitely there, but the remake does introduce a lot more versatility to the camera mechanic and makes combating ghosts feel a little bit more fun. Which is good, but not great for a horror balance. I'll try to make it a point to call out anything in the remake that I feel is worth bringing up as we go today, but all in all, the original Fatal Frame 2 on the PlayStation 2 absolutely made an impression on me. Now, to really understand the impression left on me, we're going to have to dive deep into this one. We're going to slot this game into our PlayStation 2 and work through the actual game a bit, but before we do so, it is important that we start peeling back some of the layers and seeing exactly what it is that we're working with. So, what is this game? Fatal Frame 2 is a third-person survival horror game developed and published by Tecmo. Players take on the role of Miyu Amakura,
twin sister to Mayu Amakura, who both find themselves trapped in Minakami Village, a place seemingly lost to time. Also known as All Gods Village, the village is said to have stood in the forest deep in the mountains. The forest itself is now due to be lost with the creation of a new dam. The story goes that on the eve of a special festival, the village just suddenly vanished, leaving the forest covered in thick fog. Many also say that if you should happen to get lost in the forest, you will be spirited away to this lost village. The village where the crimson butterflies dance. The village held forever in the grip of a never-ending night. Sounds pretty spooky, right? Well, it goes without saying that Miyu and Mayu find a way to get themselves trapped in said village, and the game involves us trying to find a way out, while also discovering what exactly happened to the village as well as its inhabitants. Upon entering the village, the girls seem to believe that no one's around, but occasionally they'll spot evidence of those that have come before them, or at times they'll often spot figures walking around in the distance. Can the girls find a way out alive? What really happened to the village and all who live there? Why are twins featured on statues and motifs all over the place? And whose moans can we hear floating on the wind? Alright, now that we have a basic setup, I think it's time we slot this game into our PlayStation 2 and try it out for ourselves. Now, I'm lucky enough to own a physical copy of Fatal Frame 2, so we are going to play this game as God intended, in an original PlayStation 2 console with a big fat CRT TV hooked right up to it. Admittedly, I actually tried playing this game using an HDMI adapter that I have for my PS2 because I'm lazy and I didn't want to hook up my CRT given my limited space in my home office here, but HDMI is not the way to go. This game is visibly dark, and an HDMI connection somehow made the game even darker, even when I tried hooking it up to multiple TVs that we have here around the house. So, that said, let's get set up here and do it proper. First, I gotta get my 20-inch CRT off the top of my bookshelf here, so just bear with me here a second. Alright, 1 second. God damn, this thing is heavy! Okay, easy. Okay. Damn, I am out of shape. Okay, next we plug in the TV and the PS2. Okay, now, finally, the game. Oh yeah. While the instruction manual has a bit of a crease in it, the CD is in pristine condition. Alright, now grab your controller. It is time to dive into Fatal Frame 2. Let me just hit that power button for you. God damn, that'll never get old. When the game boots up, we're met with the logo for Tecmo, the game's publisher and developer. Before merging with Koei in 2009, Tecmo was known for some fun game series such as Ninja Gaiden, Rygar, Tecmo Bowl, and even Dead or Alive. Just wanted to drop a random fact on y'all. Now, after the Tecmo logo fades, another logo appears, this time for Project Zero. I will say, I think the significance of this logo is a bit lost on me. The original Fatal Frame was called Zero in Japan, the word zero signifying the nature of spirits as beings of nothingness in relation to Japanese culture. Well, at least that's what the internet says. And Project Zero was the name of the original Fatal Frame when it was released in Europe. So yeah, not sure if Project Zero displayed here was what the development team went by, or if they just wanted to give a shout out to the original game. Either way, after that logo fades, the title screen appears. The title screen, for me, immediately hit me with its design. Primarily colored in dark browns, the center of the screen absolutely stands out. Looking at the top first though, we see the logo for Fatal Frame 2, but going back down towards the middle, we see two young girls standing together, and they seem to be tethered by a crimson red rope. It's funny, even despite the somewhat jovial menu music that you're listening to right now, this screen has a way of projecting a feeling of quiet isolation. It's really cool looking. At the bottom of the screen, if we look down, are the words "Press Start Button," so go ahead and do that. Now we can see the words "New Game" on screen. From here, you can scroll left or right with the directional pad. There's options like Load Game, Album, where you can view and edit photos that we find or take in-game, as well as an options menu. There really isn't much in the options screen worth calling out, but there is a slider for overall brightness. Personally, I would think about ratcheting up the brightness a notch or two. Like I mentioned, Fatal Frame 2 is a very dark game, and while I wasn't stumbling around in the dark or anything, the game is a bit darker than I think it should be. But I'll let you decide if that's something you want to mess with. For now, let's select New Game. From here, we have one last selection. We can play the game on easy difficulty or normal. I'm honestly not sure the difference between the two since I normally play all of my games on the game's normal difficulty the first time through, so let's just go with that. Once you select normal, the screen fades to black and the game begins.
Didn't we always promise each other that we would always be together?
The game opens to an opening cinematic. Miyu and Mayu are visiting their childhood home. The spot that they're at, which is a secret hideaway for the pair, is due to be swallowed by a lake come the end of summer. Miyu sits on a patch of grass, seemingly lost in her memories. On screen, we see Miyu looking down at a clear stream of water. From behind her, a pair of hands fall upon her shoulders. Looking up, Miyu sees Mayu standing above her, speaking to her.
We used to play here all the time. Yeah. All of this will be gone soon. Is your leg okay? Does it hurt? It does a little bit. I'm fine. Meow? Yes?
Mayu, now sitting with her back to her sister, sees a beautiful red butterfly fluttering in the distance.
Never mind.
On screen now, we see a flashback of a memory. Miyu and Mayu when they were younger, running through the woods, seemingly the same woods that we're in right now. Miyu is running far ahead of Mayu, and even though Mayu is calling out to her sister, she doesn't slow down. Then, Mayu takes a tumble, falls, and does some considerable damage to her leg.
Mayu, about that time back then. Mayu?
Miyu turns around and realizes that Mayu is gone. No, not gone. Towards the tree line, we get a glimpse of Mayu walking with her trademark limp, following the butterfly that we saw earlier. Miyu chases after her sister now.
Mayu!
we catch a glimpse of a statue on the ground with what looks like twins on it. All at once, the world seems to turn black, and Miyu looks around, lost and confused. Every so often, Miyu sees Mayu, but instead of Mayu, we see someone in a white kimono.
No, stop! Wait! Mayu!
Once Miyu catches her, Mayu spins around with a twisted expression on her face. Suddenly, Miyu is back in the forest. Night has seemingly fallen. Looking around, there's no sign of her sister.
Mayu?
In the distance, however, Miyu can see what looks to be light from a fire at the end of the path. At this point, we gain control of Miyu and the game officially starts. Okay, here we go. Now, first things first, let's get used to how the game controls. For you old school survival horror veterans out there, you'd assume this game would use classic tank controls, where you move based on the direction Miyu would face. Much to my dismay, Fatal Frame 2 uses a 3D style of movement. All you have to do is move your left thumbstick on the controller and Miyu will move in that direction. Which is fine, but it's not tank controls. It's fine, seriously. I am probably the only person that's actually disappointed in that anyway. Moving right along though, use your left thumbstick to move Miyu down the forest path to get a feel for how she moves. There you go, you got it. Now, admittedly, this movement style took a little getting used to, especially since the right thumbstick does not twirl the camera at all. Yes, that's right, the camera angles are, while dynamic in some areas, mostly fixed in place. At some point, we will find a flashlight that we can use to light our way, and then we can use the right thumbstick to aim that flashlight around, so there is that. In any case, go ahead and keep working your way down the path. You know, as we move through the forest, it's pretty clear that Tecmo did a really great job with the graphics. While the camera angles are more or less fixed, backgrounds are seemingly rendered primarily with 3D assets for the most part, but it does look like there are some pre-rendered backgrounds mixed in there as well. While we will get to see much more detail in the areas ahead, this forest area really stood out for me personally. It really isn't anything groundbreaking, but maybe it's just how it looked on my old CRT that just made this area stick out. Anyway, apologies, I am droning on. We need to find Mayu, and I think we need to pick up the pace a bit. If you move Miyu and hold down your square button on your controller, Miyu will start to run, so go ahead and have her get a move on. As we move through the forest, Miyu calls out to her sister. As we keep heading towards the firelight, eventually our screen fades to black. From here, another beautifully rendered CGI cutscene plays. As Miyu looks closer at the firelight over the hill, she spots someone standing in front of her on the path. It might be Mayu, but we aren't quite sure. The person in front of us seems to be dressed in that white kimono that we saw earlier. Whoever it is, with her head in her hands, she speaks.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
As Miyu moves around the figure to get a glimpse at her face, Miyu seemingly is jolted back to reality. She's standing in a clearing now, in front of a stone structure of some kind. It sort of looks like an altar.
Where is this?
Miyu catches sight of another crimson butterfly and follows it with her gaze. The butterfly heads towards Mayu, who is standing over a cliff overlooking a village.
Mayu?
Mayu turns to face us, and as she does, multiple crimson butterflies seem to emerge from her. They flap their wings and disperse, heading towards the sky. It's very clear that something seems to be guiding Mayu, and by extension, Miu. Where were they now? Mayu answers our thoughts, speaking as though she's in a trance.
A lost village.
After she speaks, the camera pans upward to give us a great shot of the village from above, and the game's title screen appears. The scene continues on as Miu speaks about the village.
I've heard about this place. A long time ago, there was a village here that disappeared during a festival. People who get lost in the woods are trapped by the village. Could this be that place?
After the camera pans down, the game gives us control of Miu again, and, at least for now, Mayu will be tagging along with us. There's multiple fires burning on pyres around the stone altar. In some capacity, it seems as though someone has been here, and recently too. Where is everyone? For now, the only thing we can do is make our way down the path and enter the village with the hopes of finding help. Go ahead and start to make your way to the path you see on your right. Mayu will do her best to keep pace with you, but her run speed isn't nearly as fast as yours thanks to her injured leg. It's worth noting that, while Miu is with you, she can be attacked, so you'll need to watch out for her. If you stray too far from Mayu, she'll call after Miu, pleading with her sister to slow down and not leave her behind. The game does a really good job of establishing the bond between both of these sisters, and it's clear that Mayu is still struggling with Miu leaving her behind all those years ago. While most players would, and probably do, find this to be annoying from a gameplay standpoint, it actually endeared me a little bit to Mayu. While I don't think the game penalizes you if you do decide to run ahead, bump into her, or otherwise ignore Mayu, I honestly wanted to stick close to her and see that she was safe. I really didn't mind slowing my roll up at all, and if nothing else, Mayu's need to keep her sister close helped the player to slow down a bit. Not only does this allow you as the player to take in everything around you, it's a subtle way that the game keeps the pacing slow so that ever-impactful tension can rise more naturally. One change that I wanted to call out in the remake is that the remake allows the player to hold Mayu's hand. There's a couple in-game benefits to holding Mayu's hand, such as health regeneration for instance, but I liked that the remake gave players an additional way to bond the sisters together. This is very much their story, and their bond together is center stage, and whether it's the original game on the PlayStation 2 or the remake on the PS5, both versions do a really good job of keeping that center stage. Hang on a moment, what is that? As you make your way towards the village, there's a shiny glimmer on the ground. Go ahead and walk over to it. Miu will automatically examine it, and we pick up a black bag, which looks like a lady's purse. According to the description on the item, there are several pieces of paper and a photograph inside. One of the papers is a newspaper clipping, and it talks about a geological surveyor that has gone missing. The game will let you read the clipping here, and I encourage you to look out for as many documents like this as you play. In true survival horror fashion, while there's plenty of cutscenes and dialogue to be had, much of the game's story will be worked out through written accounts of people who have lived in the village or from those who have happened to stumble upon it. Harking back to the original days of Resident Evil, I love that you have to put things together with clues that you find in the world. Sure, it can be cumbersome at times to have to sit and read pages of a document, but I love the feeling that you get when you start to put the pieces together and things start to take shape. It feels much more earned than an exposition dump, that is for sure. After you read the newspaper clipping, it's added to our file that we can reference at any time in the main menu. Also inside the black bag is a photograph of a young couple. The game will show us the photograph here, and we can assume the man in the photo is the geological surveyor that's spoken of in the newspaper clipping. Seems like he came to the village at some point. And unless the surveyor carries his belongings in a lady's purse, we can assume the woman in the photo is here somewhere as well. Perhaps she came to look for him.
Whose is this, I wonder? Who else is here?
A good question indeed. While I'm thinking about it, make sure you keep an eye out for that blue shimmering glimmer you saw earlier. It's a great indication that there's an item of some sort to collect. Without giving anything away story-wise, you'll often find yourself revisiting previous locations in the game, and at times, new items or documents might appear, so always be on the lookout. However, true to the times, sometimes you can find items that are hidden in the environment that you cannot see. Be sure to use your X button to search whatever is in front of Miyu. You'd be surprised what you could find that is not in plain sight. Sometimes Miyu may even give you her thoughts on something even if there is no item to collect. Speaking of, next to the black bag we just picked up is a rather large stone that's positioned next to us on the path. Go ahead and walk over to it and then hit your X button to examine it. When you do, on-screen text appears and says, "The statue of guardian deities appears to be a carving of twins. There seem to be many statues like this one throughout the village." Statue of twins, huh? I'm sure that's just a crazy coincidence that our main characters just happen to be twins. I'm sure it's nothing. As you keep walking, you'll get to experience the camera work firsthand. Some static angles give way to dynamic views where the camera follows Miyu by keeping her in the center of the frame. It looks amazing. However, even if the camera is moving around, it can still be difficult to see where you might be going or what's up ahead. Camera angles like this, though, are the perfect addition to any horror game because you really can't see everything around you, and the horrors are often left to your imagination. Sometimes good sound design can play tricks on you too. In the Fatal Frame 2 remake, the developers opted to ditch this particular camera scheme in favor of giving the player control of the camera in a more over-the-shoulder third-person view. A style that has been seen a lot lately. It largely works in the remake, but personally, I think the camera angles in the original version are better for the overall experience. One great example of why that is coming up here in just a moment. As the camera changes a few times as you walk towards the village, it finally changes to a shot showing the village out in front of you. Two buildings are on either side of the road, and if your eyes follow the road, you'll see that it leads to an intersection that... Whoa, wait a minute. What is that? Down by the intersection, you see a lone figure walking from right to left, vanishing as it goes behind the building to the left. Or maybe it went in? It looked to be a woman, or at least someone with a feminine shape. This moment right here is very quiet. There's no music stinger drawing your attention to this. It's just genuinely creepy, and it starts to build the tension up pretty well, I think. I also think the camera angle solidifies this moment as one of the more impactful ones in the entire game. Whoever or whatever that was, it's clear now that we are not alone in the village. As you continue forward, another CGI cutscene plays out.
I wonder if anyone's here.
The girls look to the building on the left. A light, possibly from a lantern, seems to sweep past a window. The camera shifts to Miyu's side, and we see Miyu place her hand on her sister's shoulder. Miyu touches it and sighs, Mayu's presence calming her. Just then, Miyu walks in front of the camera past Miyu. But if Miyu is over there, whose hand is on Miyu's shoulder? Miyu spins around. There's no one there. From the door of the house, Mayu calls out.
Mio?
Yeah.
Whoa, that was creepy. We're now inside the house and we have control of Miyu again. To Miyu's left, our right, there's a room blocked off by a wooden lattice fence. Go ahead and push forward into the house. As you do, the camera shifts, showing us into the room past the lattice. There's someone standing there, looking at us. Another cutscene plays showing the girls heading deeper into the home. The home seems abandoned, but more than that, it seems like it's been abandoned for ages now.
Isn't anybody here?
Should we go inside?
Miyu turns back to Mayu. Her eyes are wide with fear.
Mayu? Mayu! What's wrong?
Miyu touches Mayu's arm, and in an instant, we seem to be shown something. Something that Mayu can see in her mind. Images of the house we're in. A woman wandering the halls, calling out to someone. There's a hole in the ground. The woman being strangled by a man.
I don't want to kill anyone.
What was that?
I don't know. I don't know.
We're given back control of Miyu as we stand in the middle of the house. Man, things are starting to build up now, aren't they? The house is seemingly abandoned, but we clearly saw someone earlier. Hell, that person we saw might have been the same woman we just saw in our vision. There's no way that we're alone in this house, but we still have to continue to push forward. Taking just a second and thinking about what just happened. This right here is how well the game works to build that tension I was talking about. Personally, I don't think I was all that scared in some of these sorts of moments, but just knowing someone or something was near was enough to put me on edge. The music in this moment certainly helps heighten the moment as well, and now when you're exploring, you're just waiting for that release. While never my favorite tool in the spooky game or spooky movie toolkit, a jump scare would be perfect right now, or some sort of jolt to your senses. Fatal Frame 2 is a master of tension, and I found it to be the most enjoyable part of the entire experience. Even though we're feeling a bit on edge right now, we still have to keep going forward. Go ahead and head into the center of the room, just up that small staircase there. There you go, and as you do, the camera shifts again, offering us a new angle. This time, the camera keeps Miyu and Mayu at a distance, almost like someone is watching us from afar. In the center of the room, there's another blue shimmer. Head on over and see what it is.
You pick up a woman's notebook. Inside the notebook, the woman talks about the village and how it seems to relive for eternity a night of mass death. She talks about some sort of insane laughter that supposedly echoes throughout the village, and how the only survivor of whatever massacre occurred here just so happened to be a woman. Interesting, yet creepy. After reading, we file the notebook away. We still have more questions than answers at this point, but at least we know that there was some sort of massacre, which may explain the lack of people so far. Strangely, though, we haven't seen any bodies yet. Behind where Miyu is standing is a door, which probably leads us towards the room behind the lattice we saw earlier. Walk over to it and press the X button to open it. Miyu will stand in front of it and hold the door for a moment while the game loads up the next room. It's actually kind of a nice little design trick, I have to say, and doesn't take players out of the experience while the game gets things ready for the next section. Once the door is open, you'll have to walk Miyu through to get into the next room, so go ahead and head in. Once through, the door shuts behind you. As we move into the room and around the corner of a wood panel with a kimono draped over it, we spot a red lantern in a corner. These red lanterns are scattered all over the place, and they allow you to save your game to your PS2 memory card. Ugh, just saying PS2 memory card makes me feel old. Remember when you needed a separate memory card just to save your game on the original PlayStation and the PS2? I am very lucky to still have my original PS2 memory card, that is for sure. You can stop and save the game here if you want, but I still think it's a bit early and we could probably just keep pushing forward. To the right of the lantern is another glowing shimmer. I'm sure you know what to do with that. The prompt on screen says we found Woman's Notebook number 2, a continuation of the first notebook passage that we found a moment ago. In this passage, the woman talks about how she sometimes sees someone passing by the window. He carries a torch and mutters things. He seems to be searching for someone. In the distance, the woman hears some kind of sad ceremonial song being sung. She mentions that the village vanished on the day of some sort of ceremony, and that day is repeated over and over again. The notebook passage ends here, and we put it to file. Another mention of the village being stuck in some sort of a loop. And now there's talks of some sort of ceremony. Interesting. Head towards the back of the room now. Passing through a doorway, there's a bunch of boxes on the floor. There's no telltale shimmer that we can see on the ground, but search around with your X button anyway. It's very possible something may be hidden here. Nice, you found a sacred water. The description says, when used from the item screen, strength is fully recovered. This item is one of the few health restoring items in the game, and obviously a precious commodity. Definitely keep that one close. It's not displayed on screen at the moment, but Miyu does have a health indicator. As she takes damage or is otherwise injured, that health meter will decrease. When it's empty, yep, you guessed it, it is game over. Items like the sacred water will restore your health, you just have to go into the menu to use it. Which, when I say that out loud, is as cumbersome as it sounds. You do get used to it the more you do it, but that was one thing that the Fatal Frame 2 remake actually cleaned up, and I'm very thankful for. You can actually use consumable items like this with just the press of your directional button. No need to go into the menu. After you pocket the sacred water, Miyu speaks and just casually mentions that she feels someone is watching them. Great, not creepy at all. I don't think there's anything else in this room, so let's backtrack to the main room of the house. Just keep your eyes open. Back in the main room, there's another door directly across from us, but let's ignore that for now. If you head back to the door we entered to get into this room in the first place and turn to Miyu's left, we'll see a long hallway with a curtain drawn in front of it. Let's go ahead and head down there.
As we pass through the curtain, you may be just as surprised as I was with the curtain physics on display. The curtain that you see draped in the middle of the hallway is thin, almost see-through, but the way it drapes over Miyu's head as she walks through it is pretty damn impressive on PS2 tech. Modern games have some incredible details, but oh man, those curtain physics. Sorry about that. I know it's just a curtain, but still. Anyway, keep making your way down the hall. As we make our way down the hall, the camera shifts again. We come to an intersection now with a staircase that we can climb near the bottom of the screen and another hallway we can go down at the top of the screen. For now, though, keep pushing forward. As we do, the camera abruptly changes and we can see someone walking to the left at the end of the hall.
I kept searching for you.
Shit, that was definitely a woman, and she absolutely looked like a ghost. I'm convinced it's the woman who's been writing in the notebooks that we found so far. I know it sounds crazy though, but the right thing to do here, according to all video game logic, is to follow her. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to do this in real life, but again, we have to follow the rules. Follow her to the end of the hall and pass through the door at the end of it. Miyu and Mayu pass through the door and it shuts behind them.
It's a bit cold.
Mayu comments on the room's temperature. I remember feeling a little cold in my home office when I got to this point in the game as well. Weird, right? Further in the room is another blue sparkle on the ground. Woman's notebook number 3. The woman seems to be writing a letter to Masumi, the man that she's looking for, letting him know that she'll be nearby if he finds the letter. We put that letter to file with the rest of what we found so far and continue to search the rest of the room.
I wonder if anyone's really here.
Very good question, Mayu. I was wondering the same thing. There's nothing else of note in the room, so let's head back out into the hallway. Once we head down the hallway and get to the L turn, the camera shifts again. God damn it, that one got me. We see the ghostly apparition of a woman again, this time very close to our screen near the bottom left. She moves down a hallway and out of sight. Well, guess we should probably keep following her, huh? It's a little hard to see, but at the end of the hall, the door is to our right. The wood paneling of the house can sometimes hide doors, which is spot on for the times, but frustrating for us. Either way, when you go to open the door, a text box will appear telling us that the door is slightly ajar. Ever feel like you're being led around somewhere? Certainly seems to be the case here, but we don't have much else to go on, so go ahead and push into the next room. When we enter the room, it's clear that no one's inside. Still, the air in here feels heavy, and Mayu says what I'm sure we're all thinking.
Something's strange about this place.
Fucking Mayu over here, being master of the obvious. Anyway, if we move to the left side of the room, we'll see something on the table there. Go ahead and grab whatever it is. Hello, a flashlight. Seems like the batteries are still good, which is a good thing. But where did it come from? Someone must have left it here. After pocketing the flashlight, we then pick up a file called Camera Obscura Pointers. Oh baby, here we go. The notorious Camera Obscura has to be nearby. The file mentions that the camera was made by a Dr. Aso with the purpose of taking photographs of beings in the spiritual plane that normally cannot be seen. It can also reveal events from the past through the lingering thoughts of individuals. Taking a photo of an unseen being has a quote-unquote exorcismal effect, the file says. It goes on to say that if the camera is used carelessly, these unseen beings may gain the upper hand on the user. Ugh, ominous. After we put the camera pointers to file, another CGI cutscene begins. Miyu hears a voice, seemingly in her head, talking about the camera. Turning around, she spots the camera on the ground. She slowly moves towards it.
That's...
So this is the Camera Obscura. It takes pictures of impossible things.
In what looks to be a scene from the past, we see a man in a cavern somewhere looking at a large stone pillar. He has the Camera Obscura and slowly raises it towards the pillar.
What was that? I can't believe. So it's true. This thing is too dangerous.
The scene ends and we're taken back to the present. Mio, who seems to have been in a trance, is jarred back to reality by Mayu's voice.
The Camera Obscura.
Mio. What's that? Is someone here?
The girls can hear something moving in the hall outside the room. Their eyes fixate on the door, terror now taking hold. We're given control back and a tutorial appears explaining to us how to use our new spirit slaying camera. On the PlayStation 2, using the camera is simple on the surface, but it asks a lot from you in the moment. Real quick, while we have a moment, let me walk you through it. To use the camera, you'll hold the circle button to raise the camera, which pulls you into a first-person view. From there, you'll use the left thumbstick to move the viewfinder around, and you can use the right stick to move Miu around if you need to, albeit very slowly. And when you're ready to take the shot, you can either press the R1 shoulder button or the X button to capture the image. But here's the thing. While snapping photos at a safe distance is one strategy when you're face to face with a spooky specter, you'll actually want to let any hostile spirits get close to you. Reason being, the closer they are, the potential for higher damage shots. Now, I know what you're thinking, and this is why I think this combat mechanic is so cool. Obviously, if you let something that wants to kill you get close to you, you increase the risk. But letting it close to you increases the damage you do. It's a fantastic risk-reward system that doesn't just help you conserve film, which is more or less your ammo, but you have to literally face your fears, sometimes uncomfortably up close, to truly conquer them. That is the magic of the combat system right there. Now, go ahead and hold your circle button down for a moment to raise the camera up. Good. You can let go of the circle button and you'll stay in this mode. If you press it again, you'll put the camera down and return to third person, but stay in camera view for now. There's a few things you need to know. You'll notice a circle in the center of your viewfinder. This is your targeting reticle, also known as the capture circle. As a ghost moves into frame, different indicators will light up, letting you know when you've got a clean shot. Now, here's the thing that I am probably going to explain poorly, so just bear with me. You can't just randomly take pictures of spirits and expect to do damage. Not all of them are built that way. you'll need to look for a small circle that's around a spirit and line it up inside your viewfinder within that capture circle. When you do, the circle in the center of the viewfinder will light up slightly and signal that you can now do damage if you take a shot. This will be accompanied by a sort of static sound. Now, when the indicator turns red, that's your cue to take a shot for higher damage. These moments are what the game calls a shutter chance. Think of it like landing a critical hit, and it has the potential to repel the spirit back as well as doing higher damage. Now, if you really have some balls, you can take a shot the moment the ghost is about to attack you. This usually isn't the point where they're in the middle of their wind-up. This is at the point where they're about to hit you right across the face. The timing here has to be precise, but if you can nail the shot, you'll land a fatal frame. At that point, you'll stagger the ghost, and you can take multiple shots in a sort of combo attack. Taking shots like this doesn't use any film and has the potential to stack massive damage. Neat, huh? See how the risk and reward balance is here? If you mess up the shot, you're probably going to take damage, so you have to weigh the risks in the moment. Your instincts are going to tell you to snap that picture early. Your instincts are probably going to tell you to panic, to take the shot and get the hell out of there. But this game does not reward panic. It rewards patience, and it rewards nerve. Another thing to mention too, as you progress through the game, you'll be able to upgrade the camera. You can make it stronger, you can make it faster, and you can even find more powerful types of film to use. Stronger film, kind of like more powerful ammunition for a firearm, does more damage, but that stronger film is limited, so you'll have to choose your moments carefully. You can also equip special lenses that add effects to your shots. Think of these as special shots. They'll do things like slow down enemies or even knock them back a ways without having to land a shutter chance. But again, timing is everything. One last thing before we get back to the game. In my experience, controlling the camera was hard for me at first. There was just something unnatural about it. I don't know if the sensitivity of the thumbsticks was cranked all the way up or what it was, but I struggled for a bit. It also didn't help that moving Miu with the right thumbstick while you're looking down the scope of the camera was awful and clunky. That said, as you're getting used to combat in this game, don't be afraid to take a shot, lower the camera, reposition yourself, and then post up somewhere new. That philosophy helped me a lot when I was getting used to things. You're usually not swarmed by multiple ghosts until the latter parts of the game, so you've got some considerable time to get good, as the kids say. Alright, that is plenty about the camera. It's time for us to get the hell out of this room. Things seem quiet, so I'm sure whatever we heard in the hall is probably long gone. I mean, if I were a ghost, I wouldn't have stuck around for my mind-numbing tutorial on a camera. Anyway, make your way over to the door you came in from, and let's head back into the hall. Ah, jump scare! As soon as Miu opens the sliding door, we get a close-up of a woman's ghostly face staring at us. We're given back control now, still in the same room that we were in. We're going to have to deal with the spirit on the other end of the door, so this is a great time to put that camera knowledge to use. Oh, that reminds me. Now that we have the camera, at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice this old-looking filament icon. When Miu is facing towards a spirit, that filament will glow. If the filament is glowing red, the ghost in front of us is hostile. If it glows blue, the ghost is not hostile and will not attack us. I actually, now that I think about it, don't think I mentioned this before, but not every ghost or spirit that walks around the village wants to kill us. Some of them are merely echoes of the past, or just wandering around with no sense of purpose. Lucky for us, the filament right now is glowing blue, so whatever is in front of us is not going to harm us.
Still, we do need to get rid of it. Go ahead and bring up the camera now. Now, using the left thumbstick, position the circle in the middle of the viewfinder on the door. Oh yeah, there is definitely something there. See how distorted the door is right now? When you get closer to the door, the circle will start to glow blue on the viewfinder, the same color as the filament gauge. This means that we have whatever the apparition is in the capture circle. Oh, look right there, look closer. There she is. If you look close enough, you can see the ghostly figure of a woman just staring at you. Go ahead and hit the R1 button to take a shot. The screen flashes and the words "Door Woman" appear below the photograph that we just took. Anytime we come across non-hostile spirits and we're able to take a photograph of them before they disappear, the photo that churns out will give us the name of that ghost, or whatever that ghost was doing at the time. After the photo is taken, the ghost lady vanishes.
It's gone.
Come on, let's get out of here.
Now, our instincts are probably telling you that, now that we have the camera, we should probably get the hell out of this house. And your instincts would be right, however, we'll find that the way out is barred. We still have unfinished business with the lady ghost that we've been seeing. I'm not going to go into all the detail in terms of what we need to do to track her down, so I'll leave that for you to do now. While you do that, I have a mess of thoughts I wanted to share. As I played through Fatal Frame 2, one thing that really stood out to me is just how rooted this game is in that early survival horror design philosophy. This is not a game that holds your hand. Items, for instance, aren't always clearly marked. You're expected to actually look around, scan the environment, to check all corners and every part of the background. Sometimes that means finding something useful, and sometimes it means just hearing Miyu's thoughts on what it is that she's seeing. It all adds to the immersion though, but it also means that you need to stay engaged with the world at all times. That said, the game really reinforces that idea in other ways too. For instance, ghosts don't just politely wait around for you. There were plenty of moments where I would catch a glimpse of one, only for it to vanish before I could react. When those opportunities do show up and you see a non-hostile specter just out of view, you need to be quick to catch that photo so you can grab some extra skill points, or they're gone. Now, in terms of the actual fear factor, the game definitely builds tension, which I hopefully did a good job of recreating today here for you. There were moments where I felt my heart rate pick up a bit. I felt a sense of creeping unease as I moved through a new area. But interestingly, I wouldn't say that I was particularly scared when I was playing this game. If anything, I found myself getting a little aggressive with the game after a while. Once I got comfortable with the game's controls and combat, I actually sought out encounters. I made it a point to find ghosts and take them down for the points, and then use those points to upgrade my camera. And in my opinion, I think the design overall kind of pushes you in that direction. Enemies can take a decent amount of punishment, so it really encourages you to learn these shutter chance opportunities and get your fatal frame timings down. When you land those critical shots, it absolutely feels great, but if you don't, combat can swing the other way and feel a little bit frustrating, especially since not every enemy has a clear wind-up animation before they attack. Sometimes it feels like you're guessing, and that can really break the immersion a bit. But going back to the overall fear factor, I do want to make something very clear. Everybody scares differently. Things that my wife finds absolutely terrifying sometimes makes me laugh. So even though I did say that I wasn't really constantly scared when playing this game, it's not to say that Fatal Frame 2 is not a scary game. I think a lot of the scares comes from the tension that is constantly being built up and then released and then built up and then released. If someone did corner me and ask me if Fatal Frame 2 was a scary game, I absolutely would tell them, yes, it most definitely is. There are still many gamers out there that I know of that do want to play this game, but are held back by those potential scares, and I totally get that. Another thing I wanted to mention about the game experience I had was Mayu herself. Oh, Mayu. Look, I get Mayu is a central part to the story. She's obviously very important, being one of the two twins, but as a gameplay companion where she's sticking with Miyu every once in a while, that tested my patience a little bit. There were multiple times where I was lining up the perfect shot, trying to hold my nerve as a specter or a ghost was closing in on me, and then when I panned to the right to get it right in the frame, there is Mayu just standing there, right in my way. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about all the different ways I can strangle her. Shout out to anyone that gets that endgame reference. But to be fair, the game does give you a bit of a trade-off. If a spirit does grab Mayu, which is very possible, that is an instant Fatal Frame opportunity. And yeah, I am not ashamed at all to say that I absolutely took advantage of that. The last random thought that I wanted to put in here real quick is I actually appreciated how the game handles its storytelling. A lot of it, or rather most of it, is pieced together through journals, notes, and environmental details. The game doesn't just hand you everything. You have to connect the dots yourself, and when you do, it makes the whole experience feel that much more personal, and that much more haunting. By the time the credits roll, you might have a lingering question or two left unanswered, or something left ambiguous, but that's by design, in my opinion. Maybe you find that missing narrative piece in a replay, or maybe you're never meant to know a certain detail, and that's okay. I love games that leave things open to interpretation, and I love the fact that Fatal Frame 2's story is one of those stories that means something different to everyone based on what it is that they interpret. Even though some of the events in the game are pretty straightforward, but still, you have to piece it all together yourself, and I really appreciated that. Oh, and that reminds me, there's also the subject of the Fatal Frame 2 remake as well. So far, I'm having a great time with the remake, but I have to say, it feels a little too video gamey compared to the original for me. The biggest change right away is the perspective shift. The remake moves away from the mostly fixed camera angles of the PS2 version and leans much more into the over-the-shoulder third-person view that I mentioned before. It makes movement feel more modern and fluid, but it also changes the vibe a bit. It almost loses a little of that classic cinematic horror framing the original had. Camera angles, like I mentioned before, are kind of a big part of that. There are also visual upgrades and lighting improvements in the remake, which make the village feel much more detailed and very much alive, but also arguably a little less obscured and mysterious. The PS2 version hides a lot in actual darkness and in those camera angles, while the remake lets you see more of your surroundings. Gameplay-wise, the Camera Obscura is still the core, but there are new control refinements and accessibility tweaks, making it even easier to aim and react compared to the original's more deliberate pace. With the addition of new camera filters that alter damage and have other effects in combat, fighting ghosts felt, arcadey, if that's even the right word. The multiple new ways to upgrade your camera and abilities really took a lot of the horror edge off for me personally. Don't get me wrong, the remake is very fun to play, but as a horror experience, I think I prefer the original. We'll see if I still feel the same way once I fully complete the remake, however. Anyway, that was a lot, and I left you alone to explore the Osaka house for quite some time now. What else were you able to find? Ooh, nice.
Looks like you found out the truth behind the lady ghost that we've been seeing.
She also became trapped here. She came into this house looking for her boyfriend. And then, where did she go?
This place must be...
Mayu?
Why?
The ghost of the woman is in the room with us! Once the scene ends, we have control again. Okay, be ready, my friend. The moment Miyu gets to her feet, the game gives us a combat tutorial, meaning it is time to take this spirit on. Don't worry about the tutorial. Everything I said earlier on the topic of the camera should cover everything, so let's get down to business. You'll notice right away that the filament gauge at the bottom of the screen is red. This spirit absolutely means to do us harm, so let's make sure that does not happen. If you don't see the spirit on screen, know that the filament will glow if the spirit is in the direction that Miyu herself is facing. You can also pull up the camera and the filament will be at the top of the viewfinder, so you can search around the room that way. Actually, I kind of like that idea, so go ahead and pull up the camera now. She is close. Awesome, there you go. Go ahead and pan to your left. Yep, there she is, right there in the corner. She has her back turned to us with her head in her hands. Now, do you see the yellow circle around the capture circle? The more that circle fills itself out, the more damage that we'll do when we take a photo. The closer we get, the more damage we do, remember? Go ahead and slowly walk towards her. Slowly. Slowly. Shit, she vanished. Quick, lower the camera and look around. There she is, to Miyu's left. Quick, pull up the camera again. There you go, good job. She's coming towards us now. Stand your ground, you've got this. Let her get a little bit closer. Good, see how the gauge is filling up? Wait for it. Now shoot! Nice, good shot. The spirit gets pushed back and we get a point total at the top left-hand side of the screen. Better shots net us more points, which we can use to upgrade the camera, but that's something I'll leave you to figure out. Heads up though, she's on your right now, walking back into the room through the wall. Get ready, she's walking towards you again. Hold. 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 Now! Yes, another good one. Thankfully, Mayu is staying the hell out of the way for this encounter. Go ahead and lower the camera again and keep your eyes peeled for the ghost. Got a feeling, given how good your shots were, she's got to be on her last legs, so to speak. There she is, she's back in that corner again. Get over there and finish this. Great shot, and that seemed to do it. With a wail, the spirit slowly disappears and the light in the filament gauge goes out. Great job! As soon as the spirit expires, a cutscene plays. Miyu pulls back from the viewfinder and her eyes go wide. As soon as this happens, another vision plays in her mind. Miyu sees a vision of the woman that we just vanquished. She seems to be getting strangled by someone. Was it the person that she came to the village to find? It's really hard to see, but soon the image fades. And then we see a vision of Mayu following something.
Crimson butterfly.
When the cutscene ends, we're taken back to the room where Miyu and Mayu were in. Miyu must have passed out as she slowly gets up off the floor. Mayu is nowhere to be found. Looks like our next objective is to locate Mayu and then get the hell out of Minakami Village while we still can. I'm going to leave you to find Mayu on your own, my friend. For now, though, I think this is a good place to start winding things down. I gotta say, when I look back on Fatal Frame 2, what sticks with me isn't just the mechanics, or even the spooks and scares. It's the feeling that the game left me with. And what I mean by feeling is this quiet, persistent unease that follows you from the moment you step into the village to the moment that you leave it. Well, if you're fortunate enough to leave it at all, that is. Fatal Frame 2 is a game that asks for your patience. It demands your attention, and in return gives you an experience that can feel thought-provoking, can kind of feel a little heavy, and sometimes make you feel a little curious. The game isn't always terrifying in the traditional sense, but it can be deeply unsettling in a way that lingers. Between its deliberate pacing, its methodical combat, and the way it tells its story through fragments that you yourself have to discover, it creates something that feels more personal than most horror games of its time. Once you do figure out the story behind the village and why the darkness reigns there, it'll endear you more to Miyu and Mayu and make seeing the journey through to the end that much more meaningful. Even if by the end of that journey, hard choices have to be made. Fatal Frame 2 is not perfect. There were moments of frustration that I couldn't ignore as I played through it. The combat, while very, very fun when you get used to it, doesn't always feel fair if your timing is a bit off. There's game mechanics that can certainly show their age, and a companion that can test your nerves just as much as anything lurking in the dark. But even with those flaws, there's something undeniably compelling about the entire experience. The way the ghosts reflect their past lives, the way the village slowly reveals its secrets, the way the game trusts you to piece it all together. It's the kind of experience that doesn't just show you horror, it lets you sit with it. It wants you to understand it. And, in some cases, even feel a strange sense of sympathy for it. And maybe that's what makes Fatal Frame 2 so memorable for me. Because long after you put the controller down, long after the screen fades to black, it doesn't feel like you left the village, really. It feels like you're still there, still part of it all. And while a photograph can set the souls of those trapped there free, nothing will cleanse the horrors you yourself saw along the way. And while a photograph can potentially hold a dark moment frozen in time, a memory, especially a good one, has the potential to last forever. And with that, our time in Minakami Village has come to a close, my friends. This has been episode 79 of the Retro Wildlands, Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. Thank you all very much for tuning into the show today. Fatal Frame 2 is one of those rare horror games that sticks with you long after the credits roll. Not just because it's scary or because it creates some amazing tense moments, but because it's haunting in a deeper, more emotional way. It's a slow, deliberate experience that rewards patience, pulling you into its world and refusing to let you go. While it may not be the easiest game to revisit for everyone, there's something special here that still holds up remarkably well.
For me, this was absolutely a journey worth taking, and one that I will not soon forget. If you like the show today and you want to show it and myself some support, please consider subscribing to the Retro Wildlands on your preferred podcasting platform. I still have an awesome schedule of episodes lined up, both long form like this one and short form, and you absolutely do not want to miss any of those. Subscribing to the show will ensure that you're notified the instant something new drops. You can also follow us on our social media pages or check out theretrowildlands.com for the latest on the show, check out some mini-game reviews and blogs, or even check out some of the videos that I've made or links to other podcasts that I've been a guest on. The Retro Wildlands is also part of the SuperPod Network, home of some other awesome video game podcasts and other gaming content, and you can follow us over there at superpodnetwork.com. Other than this show, you can check out some other awesome shows such as the Friday Night Gamecast, Geek Addicts with Bill and Matt, Press Pause Radio, and more. There's blog posts, videos, and tons of other content, so be sure to check all of that out by heading over to superpodnetwork.com. Now, if you really like the show and you have a little bit of time to spare, I would love it if you could give us a good review or even share the show on social media with your pals. You can leave a star rating for the show over on Spotify, but you can do that and leave a written review over on iTunes, Podchaser, Podbean, and Podcast Addict, just to name a few places. Good reviews and shares will help the show appear in more search feeds, but more than that, it'll let me know that you like what it is that I'm trying to do here and that I'm delivering something that you really enjoy. But, like I say every single episode, you are under no obligation to do any of this. Just the fact that you're listening to my show right now is much more than I could have ever asked for, so, above all else, thank you for being here. So, what's coming up next? Our next short-form podcast episode will be Expedition Log number 6, where you and I will dive into the latest entry into the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil Requiem was one of those games for me that just sunk its teeth in and did not let me go until I completed the game to absolute completion. I had extremely high expectations for this game the moment it was launched, so I am excited to share with you what this experience is all about and whether or not it met my expectations. My dive into Requiem will be spoiler-free, so I hope you all are able to check it out. After that, our next long-form episode is going to have us revisit another all-time classic. I won't be posting this episode in time for the game's release anniversary, but that's okay. Originally released on March 29th, 1998, Parasite Eve for the original PlayStation remains one of the most unique experiences in all of gaming. This game was originally featured on Episode 2 of the Retro Wildlands, but just like with the original Resident Evil, which was our Episode 1, I wanted to revisit this classic and give it the re-explored treatment. I have learned a lot about audio editing, and I have a few new skills since I first started this gig, so I wanted to give you all the Parasite Eve episode that I've always wanted, and one that I think you will truly enjoy. It's going to be a fantastic time, so be sure to come back and hang out with us soon. Our expeditions into the gaming wildlands are always a fantastic time, but they are that much more enjoyable with you here. Until then, my friends, my name is Nomad, and you can find me roaming the Retro Wildlands.